What is going on, everybody? Here I am, Couz, with first live stream I've done in quite some time. What I want to talk to you about is Neal Brown's press conference today, where he recapped the 2022 season, kind of give you my thoughts on it, run down my opinions on some of the things he said. I thought it was a very interesting press conference. I thought he was very open, very honest about some of the offseason changes to the coaching staff, some of the transfer portal additions, what they're trying to do going into 2023. And Neal Brown admitted he must win in 2023. He didn't say it in those exact words, but that's basically what he said. He knows they have to put up or shut up in 2023. He pretty much admitted that. So we're going to talk about all that in this live stream. Of course, you know the deal. Leave your comments. Let me know if you want to take this conversation in a different direction. Leave me a super chat. Uh, that'll highlight the comment, and I'll be sure to see it and put it up on the screen as well. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, guys. I got a new setup here. If you haven't noticed, I'm sitting up a little higher. Got a bar stool to sit on to go with the theme of my channel here. We're at Couz's Corner Happy Hour live stream, sitting on my bar stool, ready to talk some Mountaineer football with Couz's Corner family. Appreciate you guys hopping on here. My first thoughts, like I said, obviously Neal Brown admitted that they have to win this year, and he said every decision they have made is to do just that. Every decision they made has been based on winning in 2023 because he's well aware of the criticism. He's well aware that they didn't get it done in 2022, and he said he's not making any excuses. It's on him. He's the head coach. So I admire that. I admire that he's taking the blame for it. He's stepping up. He's taking ownership of the situation. Also talked about how the coaching moves. First of all, Chad Scott being offensive coordinator talked about how he has not ruled out letting Chad Scott call the plays. He says he's going to give Chad a chance to call plays during spring ball and some of the spring scrimmages. See how Chad does with it. Then we'll see where it goes from there. He said if Chad, if he feels like Chad can do it, he'll let him take it over. Sean Reagan apparently has called plays before in his career, so he'll be there to help as well. And then obviously Neal said he will be more hands-on this year than he was a year ago. Doesn't mean he'll be calling plays necessarily, but he will be more hands-on and have more of a say in what happens on the offense. And he also let it out of the bag that he was very much hands-on the last 3 or 4 games of the season last year. I guess he wasn't happy with the direction Graham was going with the offense, wasn't happy with some of the things Graham was doing. So Coach Brown decided to be more hands-on, take over more of the responsibilities on the offense. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the offense was better the last couple of weeks, especially when he brought in the different quarterbacks. I do have a couple of guests I've invited to hop on with me if they get a chance. Don't know if they'll make it or not, but I've offered to Mountaineer Paul and also Jordan Couz from over at Country Roads Webcast. Hoping one of those guys or both of them, if possible, can hop on here with me. If not, then we'll just roll as it is. But I haven't had a chance to do a live stream in a while, so I thought I'll jump on here and kind of just chat it up with you guys a little bit about Mountaineer football and what Neal Brown had to say today. But anyway, back to that. Talked about adding Blaine Stewart. He was very detailed about that. He said, they did not add Blaine Stewart just because Blaine Stewart is Bill Stewart's son. Blaine Stewart came highly recommended by several members of his staff who apparently have worked with Blaine Stewart in the past. He also came highly recommended by Mike Tomlin and other coaches that Coach Brown knows in the industry. Said Blaine Stewart is going to be a star in the coaching industry. Said one thing he hasn't done is recruit yet, but he feels like he will be good at that because of his ability to build relationships. One of the reporters asked him about the impact of having Blaine on staff as someone who has a connection to the university and the history with the university. He said it was very important to have that. So, he did acknowledge that was an important aspect of it. So I was really happy to hear him talk about Blaine. He did confirm that they are moving Sean Reagan back to quarterback coach, where he was in 2019 through 2021. And he said something that I thought was very intriguing. He said, and I think I kind of agree with it. He said that when he looks at a coach, he doesn't look at just how, the stats and the numbers they put up, the offense or whatever unit they're coaching. But he looks at, was he able to do more with less and use what he had? And he said he felt like Coach Reagan did that. And I got to thinking, you look back at Coach Reagan, who he had in the quarterback room, he basically had Austin Kendall. He had Jarrett Dagey, and I think he may have had the young man from Jack Allison. I think he may have even had him for a year, maybe. I don't remember who I was here in 19 other than Kendall and Dagey, but that's who we started out with. And even though our offense sputtered under those two guys, uh, he, I think he may have done best with what he had to work with. I mean, I don't know. We all saw both of those guys when they transferred out went to Group of Five schools. Maybe they were not Power Five caliber quarterbacks, and that's not Sean Reagan's fault. So Sean Reagan had to coach those guys up, and our offense. If you look at the numbers, our offense was just as good, if not better, in 2020 and 2021 as it was in 2022 statistically when we had a JT Daniels back there who was a former 5-star. So, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. We'll see how Sean Reagan can do with Nico and with Garrett coming up in 2023, and also with the young freshman Sean Boyle as well, who's already on campus and will participate in spring ball. But one of the things Coach Brown talked about is continuity and how he felt it was important to build continuity within the staff. And he said, he looks around the country and sees a lot of these programs when they need to fix it, they just fire everybody. And he said most of the time that doesn't work. And he felt like having continuity on the staff would give them a better chance to succeed than going out and cleaning house and firing everybody. I think he was specifically talking about the defensive side of the ball. And then he went back and named some stats, and I thought it was very interesting. Now, I've not been one that thought Jordan Leslie should have been fired. Obviously, I stated I wanted Brown to be fired. When if that happens, the whole staff usually goes. But I did not blame it on Jordan Leslie because Jordan Leslie's defense up until this past year, had done well. And Coach Brown brought out some stats to prove that. West Virginia was top 5 in the nation in multiple defensive, or top 5 in the Big 12. I'm sorry, in multiple defensive categories from 2020 through 2020 and 2021. Top 5 in multiple defensive categories. And if I remember correctly, back in 2020, back when it was Jordan Leslie and Jamal Adai as co-DCs, West Virginia was one of the best defenses in the country that year. They were like top 5 statistically in a couple categories. So West Virginia's defense has been good up until 2022. It was always their offense that was the issue. 2022, it kind of flipped. Offense was better, defense was bad. Now, the offense wasn't great by any stretch, but they did show some improvements in certain areas. But really, if you look statistically, where they ranked in the Big 12, they weren't any better, to be honest. Even with Graham Harrell and with JT Daniels, the offense really didn't make any strides. So it'll be interesting to see, can going back to having Neal Brown with a more of a role in the offense and letting somebody like Chad Scott have more of a say, is that going to be beneficial to the offense? I think it will. And Coach Brown even acknowledged the fact that one thing we've all kind of known and talked about is the running game is going to be our strength now. And he's even said, yes, he will experiment with multiple running backs and some in the spring, having multiple running backs in the game at the same time to see if that works. But one thing he brought out and made sure that he brought out was the fact that if you do that, one of those guys has to be a blocker. And sometimes it's not easy for guys to do that. So will it work? We'll see. But I do like the idea that he's going to experiment with it, and it seems like he wants to lean more on the running game and use that as their strength. And I guess he didn't feel like Graham did that enough last year. At least kind of reading between the lines. That's kind of what I'm interpreting. TRM Music, thanks, man. You said Trey Lowe was the other quarterback that was in the quarterback room in 19 there when he come over. I had forgotten about him. I saw where he's transferring to Liberty, by the way. Several guys with West Virginia ties going to Liberty. Trey Lowe's going to Liberty. Reese Smith's going to Liberty. And there was another guy, somebody put in the comments, another West Virginia player I saw that was transferring to Liberty as well. And I don't remember who that was off the top of my head. But anyway, let's see what you guys are up to in the comments here. Thanks for hopping on here, TRE Music. Alan Boland, Tyler Jenkins, Ears Link. Thanks for hopping on. I saw Gamecock Chuck on here earlier. Thank you, man. Thank you for hopping on. If anybody wants to get up to date on the South Carolina Gamecocks, he's the guy you need to go to. Anthony Jones, thank you for hopping on. Patrick Pepper, Tyler Jenkins, I mentioned him earlier. Come out and say what directly, Tyler? About needing to win now. He didn't say it the exact way I did. I was paraphrasing, but yeah, he did come out and say he understood that they have to win in 2023. He said he understands that. He's not blind to that fact, and he feels like the media has been fair about saying that for the most part. So yes, he did admit that, and I respect him for that. He was very open and honest today. It was like a 41-minute press conference. He said from the get-go, this is going to be longer than most press conferences. I encourage you guys to go check it out. It's obviously over on WVU Football or WVU Sports rather on their YouTube channel. Uh, to go check it out. But yeah, he was very open and honest about everything, very upfront, and why he did what he did, kind of the method to his madness, why he kept certain coaches on, why he changed, the coaches he brought in, why he did it. He talked about Bilal Marshall, the wide receivers coach. When Marshall was here before as a GA, Neal Brown got to witness firsthand how good of a recruiter he was and how good he was with these high school players and guys that came on campus. GAs aren't allowed to leave campus, but they can work with the recruits or talk to the recruits rather when they're on campus, and he was really good at that. He also is a South Florida guy and has South Florida connections, so that's going to help. And he thinks Bilal Marshall is going to be a great football coach. And I said from the get go, I didn't think that was a bad hire at all. Uh, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it. You got a guy who's familiar with the program, who has ties to South Florida, which is huge in recruiting. You've got a guy who relates to the players well, apparently, based on past experience. So I think that's a home run. At least it seems to be on the surface. But I do admire the fact that Neal Brown is, if he's going to go down in 2023, he's going to go down with his guys. He's going to go down doing it his way. He's going to go down swinging, and he's not really deviating from his original plan that he came with in 2019. It doesn't seem like. Obviously, he's had to drop back and punt on a few things with like the portal, NIL, things like that are new since he got here. But his original plan was to build. He said he knew it was going to be a process when he got here. I guess that's why he came up with the trusted climb mantra. But so he knew it wasn't going to be easy, and he knew it was going to take some time. But he said he really felt like offensively anyway that 2022 was the year they would really get over the hump, and it didn't happen. He said he was open and honest that they underachieved in 2022 on the offensive side of the ball, and they should have been a lot better, and they weren't. He said he felt like they had the talent and the experience to be better than they were. So, it got me to thinking if they had not brought Graham Harrell in and Neal Brown had ran the offense the way he wanted to run it, more than likely they wouldn't have brought. They probably wouldn't have brought JT in. They probably would have had. He probably would have stuck with Garrett or Nico and would have ran the offense more like we saw the last couple games of the season. And I'll be honest with you, I can't help but wonder would our offense have been better doing it that way versus bringing in Graham Harrell. Now, all of us fans wanted him to bring in Graham Harrell or some offensive coordinator. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe had he stuck with Garrett or Nico, stuck with his plan that he had all along, maybe it would have worked out, and maybe they would have had better success on the offensive side of the ball in 2022. You never know. Something to think about. Guys, real quick, I've got my Twitter handle up on the screen right now if you guys want to connect with me. If you haven't yet, if you're on here and you haven't yet, please hit the like button. It'll help get this promoted through YouTube. I see I've got 21 of you on here, and I've got, I'm not sure how many likes I have, but just ask that you please hit the like button for me. Doing it this way is a little challenging because I can't reach my computer real well. I went out and bought this bar stool to make part of my studio, part of my background, and didn't realize at the time in order for this to work, I have to sit further back because it's so high up. I have to sit further back from the camera, which means I can't reach my keyboard. So I didn't quite think it through all the way. I'm going to have to figure out what to do here. So y'all bear with me as I reach for my keyboard here. But I've got my Instagram handle scrolling along the bottom. If you guys are on Instagram, obviously like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, hit the like button here on this live stream. See if I can get to some of these comments here. Luke Bart, he's a channel member, guys. Luke Bart's a channel member. Couz's Corner, he says, I think we win 8 this year. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm going to be positive. Yeah, Luke, I really do think, listen, I drank the Kool-Aid last year. Maybe I'll be guilty of doing it again, but I really think we'll have a winning season this year. Are we going to win 19 games? No. But can we win 7 or 8? I think we can. The schedule should be a little bit easier. Uh, Speaking of which, they asked Neal Brown today if he had seen the schedule. He said he knows who we play, but doesn't know when. And then he wouldn't say any more about it because the head of communications, Mike Fergale, was there looking on, and he kind of chuckled and said, "Mike's going to get me if I say any more." But yeah, he said he knows who they play, just not sure when they play them. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get some of the new guys on 3 or 4 of the new schools on the schedule. No disrespect to them, but I think it would be a little easier than playing Oklahoma Texas, some of these other schools. So, you never know. It might line up to where we can have a decent winning season, and that's really what Mountaineer Nation needs and what the program needs. And let's face it, that's what Coach Brown and his staff needs. Tyler Jenkins says letting Tony go was an awful, awful decision. Maybe, but I'm not sure Tony. I think Tony may have left on his own. Tyler, I'm not sure. Uh, what I'm hearing is that the job security piece was important to him. He can go to Liberty, sign a 2-year deal, maybe even a 3-year deal. Whereas at West Virginia, he only had 1 year left on his contract, and they can get renewed contracts. But let's face it, there's a lot of coaches that figure or that are afraid that Neal could be on his last year at West Virginia, and playing for a lame duck coach may not be something he wanted to do. He wants job security. He has a family to support, and he needs to know his future is secure, as secure as it can be in that business anyway. So I don't know that they uh, never necessarily let Tony go. I think he went on his own. Tyler says, I hope he understands that we don't hate him as a person, but some of his decisions making has been just terrible, keeping Daggy around when not even 3 other teams didn't want him to start. Yeah, I think he probably does. He's a smart guy, and I'm sure he does see some of the stuff on social media. And even though he doesn't get on there a whole lot, he says, uh, but yeah, I'm sure he understands that. He actually made a comment. It was interesting. He said when he first started, he was complimenting the media, telling them he appreciated what they do, and he actually was considering getting into media at one time. And actually, he said he was part of the I guess newspaper editor or something, editor for the school newspaper or whatever in high school, and realized how hard it was, and decided that wasn't for him. So he has a lot of respect for media and what they do, and I thought that was a cool of him to do that. He's not one of these coaches that despises the media and hates the media and all this, which is cool to see. He could just be kissing up to them so they don't ask him hard questions too. Who knows? Jordan White's the other player going to Liberty. That's right. TRA Music. Thank you, man. I couldn't remember who it was, man, off the top of my head. But yeah, Reese Smith, Jordan White, and then Trey Lowe, our old quarterback, is also going. Here's Link says, I think it's interesting that Brown mentioned that he became more involved toward the end of the past season with play calling. We won 2 of 3. Is he taking credit for the win over OU and OSU? Maybe. I didn't look at it as taking credit as much as he was just explaining. You know, I think it just kind of came up as part of the conversation. Hey, I'm going to take more control of the offense. But maybe he could have been maybe patting himself and his staff on the back a little bit there. Maybe I don't know. Could have been a subtle way to do that. I didn't really think about it at the time, but it is something to think about. Alan Bolin says, shame the fans have another year of such a pathetic coach. Tyler says, I literally, for some odd random reason, had a dream that you got invited to the ACC, and in the dream was telling my friend, I told you. And the TV showed us playing some team in orange, LOL. That would probably be Syracuse or Clemson, Tyler, I would guess, right? Am I right? But, I was listening to an interview with uh, Ren Baker the other day. Matter of fact, it was one over on the Voice of College Football West Virginia channel. Mark Rogers and Golden Blue Dude interviewed Ren Baker. But anyway, they asked him a question about realignment because he was the driving force, or at least part of the driving force that got North Texas into I guess it's the American Conference they're going into next year, and he was a big part of that, and he helped lead that charge. So it got me wondering, is that something that West Virginia could be looking at down the road? Are they looking to try to get into a different conference, whether it be the ACC, the SEC, something? I don't think they'll ever get into the Big Ten because of the academic requirements they have in the Big Ten. But you never know; they might, they might have a shot at the SEC potentially one day because of the culture, and I think we fit in better with the SEC than we do the Big Ten anyway. To be honest, from a culture perspective, very passionate fan base. We're school in a rural area in a rural state. Then we have a lot of similarities to a lot of the schools in the SEC. We're just not in the South. West Virginia, Morgantown is not in the South. Now, the southern part of West Virginia is considered the South, but not where Morgantown is. So a little bit different cultures there. But overall, as a state, West Virginia to me does fit in with the South. But I don't know if that's part of Rimmbecker's plan or not. But it's it'll be interesting to see how that transpires in the future. Because not that I have anything against the Big 12. I don't. I just it would be nice to play teams closer to home. As a fan, to be able to go to away games would be pretty cool. TR Music says, "How are they going to win on the road in the Big 12? They haven't in 4 years. It's a wrap if they can't next season." I agree, man. That's been one of his big Achilles heels. I think he's won 4 or 5 road games overall in conference since he's been the coach, and that just doesn't get it done. So hopefully he'll be able to change that. He has to change that, to be honest, or he probably won't have a job. And he knows it. Like I said, I think he pretty much knows it. He didn't go as far as to say, "Hey, I know I'm coaching for my job" or anything like that. But he did say, I know we have to win in 2023. We have to have a winning season, and everything he's done is to accomplish that. So I felt like it was pretty cool of him to be open and honest about it the way he did. A lot of coaches may run from that, and try to avoid that altogether, and he didn't. So that's just one of the many reasons it's hard not to like Neal Brown. He seems like such a genuine person, uh, and he's open and honest. More open and honest than a lot of other coaches are. Obviously, we'd like to hear more from him at times, but you know, we get more from him than we do other coaches or have other coaches. So I think that's kind of refreshing. It's impossible not to root for the guy, but at the end of the day, he gets paid to win football games, and that's what he has to do. And if he doesn't get it done, I have no doubt Rim Baker will, probably go in a different direction. If you guys want to make sure I see your chat, you can drop a super chat in there and make a small donation. It'll highlight the chat, and I'll be able to see it easier. Yeah, JG hit it right on the head. MB mentioned he was not sure about his role in play calling responsibilities, a work in progress, and will evaluate during the spring and summer. Yeah, so he's going to let Chad do some play calling in the spring scrimmages and stuff like that, and see how it goes. And then if he feels like it, he may let him call plays if he feels like he's, if he does good enough at it in the spring and is successful in the spring, he'll let him do it more later on in the actual season. Truth Rule says if his job depends on this year, MB making poor decisions for assistant coaches. Yeah, I mean, some are saying that. I don't necessarily have any issues with the decisions he's making. I have no issue with Bilal Marshall at wide receiver coach, and I have no issue with Blaine Stewart at tight end coach. I mean, I don't really know who else he'd have gotten. It's going to be hard to get. It's going to be hard to go out and get coaches with a lot of experience because, like I said earlier, and I don't know if you were on here yet, Truth Rules, but it's going to be hard for Neal Brown's somewhat of a lame duck coach going into 2023, and a lot of coaches are not going to want to come out and play for a lame duck coach, you know, because they know he may be gone next year. And why would you pack up and leave a job that somewhere else and come to West Virginia and you're only going to be there for a year, or at least there's a good chance you may only be there for a year. That's a huge risk to take, especially for somebody that has a wife and kids and a family. So I kind of get it, and let's be honest, they tried to hire Clint Trickett, they tried to hire Travis Trickett back. Both of those fell through. So what else were they supposed to do? Next best choice, promote Chad Scott, and I've been beating the drum for Chad Scott forever, especially on Twitter. I think Chad Scott's a fantastic football coach. Now, is he going to be a good offensive coordinator? We'll see. Time will tell. But I know he's a heck of a running back coach, and his running back room has been probably the most successful room on the team. And his guys like him; they like to play for him, and they will run through a wall for him. And he's a great recruiter too, which doesn't hurt. Anthony Jones says, "I feel like Nico will be better in the future, but to win games right now, I start Garrett Green." Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that battle plays out. Neal talked about him today. He said, both of those guys can run the football, which is another reason they want to look more to a run heavy offense or run first offense, I should say. Uh, I it's just let the battle play out, man. Whoever they pick, I trust. I trust either one of those guys. I think Nico showed me enough in that last game against Oklahoma State. Yeah, he didn't get to throw a lot of passes, but he showed a lot of poise in the pocket for a freshman. Didn't look like the game was too big for him. The moment was too big for him. I really like how he, his pocket presence, his ability to run the offense, his confidence. I felt like he's got the it factor. And as long as he can get the offense down and get the X's and O's part down, I think he'll be fine. I really do. I think Nico was born to be a quarterback. I really do. I like the guy. I think he's got the potential to be a big time star. But I think Garrett does too. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this competition plays out. And heck, who knows? We could see both of those guys on the field at times. They might run a two quarterback system. I'm not a huge fan of the two quarterback system, but Don Nehlen did it with Jake Kelchner and Darren Studstill back in 1993, one of West Virginia's undefeated seasons. So it can work if you have the right guys to run it with. So who knows? Maybe we see something like that in 2023. Be interesting to see. What's up, Hall of Fame Media, college football? Hey man, everybody go check out Hall of Fame Media, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Uh, Very good show over there. Covers a lot about Oklahoma. They cover all of college football, but uh, they do a lot of Oklahoma content over there. They actually had me on the other night. We had a little bit of a debate about the Big 12 conference, and of course, I had to wear my Big 12 flag, fly my Big 12 flag high over there on Hall of Fame College Football. But really good guys, really good content, and I think you'll enjoy his show if you tune in. His co-host, his name's Coach. I don't know his last name. He just goes by Coach. But two really, really good, uh, knowledgeable guys when it comes to the game of football. And then Jacob Yoho, thanks for the super chat, my brother. He says, if Neal Brown loses to Pitt, is he fired? What do you think? Not necessarily to Pitt. I think it's going to now if he loses to Penn State and Pitt, who knows? But I don't see him getting fired. Pitt, I think, is the third game of the season. I don't see him getting fired third game of the season. I think they'll wait and see how the entirety of the season plays out, or at least a larger portion of the season. Now, if they lose to Penn State and Pitt, and they're one, of course, they should beat Duquesne. They're 1-2, and then they drop their first Big 12 game or something. At that point, who knows? It could be a whole different story. But I don't think just losing to Pitt would cost him his job. I think it depends on the other games on the schedule as well. But thanks for the question and for the super chat, man. I appreciate the support. Tyler says, "What do you think about JT Daniels' transfer to Rice? I know it's not West Virginia related, but would you like your thoughts?" Yeah, well, it kind of is. JT was our quarterback last year, so yeah, I'll give my thoughts on that for sure. Surprised a little bit. Well, yes and no. I was surprised at the fact that it was Rice, I guess, because Rice, when it comes to football, is not really known as a juggernaut. But not surprised the fact that it was a Group of Five school because I didn't think. JT Daniels has been to three Power Five schools and it's never worked out for him. So I think it was only natural for him to take a step down to the Group of Five level. And I wish him much success there. JT was a good Mountaineer. He was a great teammate by all accounts. I think he's a good dude, man. It just didn't work here for whatever reason. I don't. Maybe he wasn't a fit. Maybe he didn't have the talent around him. Maybe he's just not as good as we thought he was. Whatever the case may be, he still seems like a really good dude. He's a very intelligent guy. He was a good teammate. He really helped Nico and some of these guys learn the position, helped them study film, things like that. And that's valuable, guys. Even though he may not have got it done on the field the way we wanted, that leadership that he brought to those younger quarterbacks was invaluable. And I think that's something that those guys can carry even into the 2023 season. So JT Daniels has left a mark on the program. We may not see it directly. Hall of Fame College Football says, I have a hard time believing he survived a new AD. I get the buyout is big, but he hasn't been good at all, and WU isn't a trash program. Yeah, I think the timing of that Hall of Fame College Football was part of it. The new AD was not hired until after, the season had already been over. A couple weeks had gone by. It was, they were only, three or 4 weeks from signing day. It just wasn't the timing. He just didn't have time to do an evaluation of the program. And he was a guy that was from the outside. So he knew very little, if very, very little about the program or about Neal Brown. So it's going to take him some time to evaluate. And he actually said in an interview that was one of the things that attracted him to the job is that he would be allowed to do a year-long evaluation of the program. He wouldn't be expected to come in and make a quick, rash decision because he didn't want to do that. Because like I said, he needs to sit back and look. And he said it. He looks at more than wins and losses. He looks at, what's the recruiting look like, what pieces do they have in place to be successful. They look at the whole thing, not just the wins and losses. So, and it does take time to do that. So I get it. I think the timing was also a big part. The money was big, I think, a big part of it, and also the timing of them firing the former AD. Had they fired the former AD a few weeks before they did and made this move earlier, it may have been a different story. Neal Brown may have gotten fired. Who knows? Says Graham sealed his fate when he left. Well, be interesting to see how he does at Purdue. Uh, I'm starting to wonder maybe Graham Harrell's just not that great of an offensive coordinator like we thought. I don't know. Romeo One Kenobi, thanks for hopping on, man. He says team effort and being prepared is what Neal's job is being judged on for 2023. I agree, and I'm not gonna lie, the effort. I felt like the effort was there those last couple games. The team played really hard. And matter of fact, that's one of the things President Gee mentioned in his speech when he introduced Wren. The team played hard for Coach Brown. So it doesn't appear to me that was a team that had quit on their coach. Yes, we lost a couple guys, a couple starters to the portal after the season, but for the most part, we kept most of our core guys together. We lost Jordan Jefferson off the nose tackle position. We lost Caden Prather at the wide receiver position. And of course, we lost, Taj Austin, who was a starter at the beginning of the year. We lost him over as an edge rusher, but I personally didn't think his loss was as big as Jordan Jefferson's because Jordan Jefferson was a force there in the middle. I'm not going to lie about that one. That was a big one. He went to LSU. So obviously, by going to LSU and being recruited by LSU shows how good of a player he is. Tyler again says, "Let's get this video some more likes, guys." I'm gonna highlight that one. Yeah, everybody do what Tyler says. Hit that like button. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate the love, man. Appreciate you getting on here with me or for me as well. See, and when it comes to recruiting, Neal talked about recruiting today a little bit. He, named off some of the guys that are there early. Some of the ones that stood out to me, obviously I can't remember them all because I'm doing this all strictly off of memory, but because I was listening to this as I was driving today, so I wasn't able to write notes down, but I had to log them into the old memory bank the best I could. But you've got Sean Boyle, the quarterback. He's going to be here for spring ball. He's already enrolled in classes. Jeremiah Trotter, the linebacker, who I'm extremely high on. I think he's going to be here for spring ball. Ben Cutter, the other linebacker out of North Carolina, he's going to be here for spring ball. James Hurd, the edge rusher, probably going to be a bandit. He's here for spring ball. He's already enrolled in classes. Those are four off the top of my head. Uh, there are several others as well. T.J. Johnson, Tory Johnson Jr., the legacy recruit, he's going to be there as well. Johnny Williams, the offensive lineman, another one that comes to mind. So several guys are going to be are already enrolled, already on campus, and will be participating in spring ball, which is a huge plus. Rodney Gallagher, the four-star guy, the receiver we got, he is not going to be, but we all know why. He's a star basketball player. Coach Brown encouraged him to go play basketball, finish out his high school career because that's something he would regret later in life if he didn't. And like I said, he actually was recruited by Power 5 schools to play basketball as well. So he's a really good player. Has a chance probably to win Player of the Year in the state of Pennsylvania. Potentially even, who knows, could win state championships. I'm not sure how good his team is, but nonetheless, that's something that Coach Brown wanted him to get to experience. And also, he said it's important, playing in front of, some of those high school gyms in some of these bigger cities. Man, he said those are really intense crowds. You get those gyms full of people, and they're right in your face when you're shooting free throws. And he said if you can perform in that kind of environment, you can perform on Mountaineer Field in front of 60,000. So he felt like it's actually a good opportunity for him to perform in front of crowds and get that experience as well. But I thought that was admirable, Coach Brown, as well, to not make the kid give up, his high school uh, memories to enroll early. He said he'll have plenty of time to catch up on the football stuff. Romeo one says middle of the season road games, 12 p.m. Being prepared for them. Yeah, you got that right. Tyler Jenkins says, "Who do you think WVU should get as a new coach after Brown? Should we get a more defensive coach or offensive coach? At this point, I don't know what WVU needs. I'm lost when I get asked that." Yeah, I don't know, man. My hope is Coach Brown goes out in 2023, has a really good year, wins a lot of games, and it becomes a moot point, and it all becomes water under the bridge. But if he doesn't, obviously, I'd like to see him get a guy that has some Power Five experience. Uh, but right now it really just depends on who's going to be available. Who's going to be available in the coaching market if that happens. I think that's going to play a big role in what I think. It's really hard to sit here and predict that right now because we don't know who's going to be available. But I will say this: if we have to take a guy and experiment with a guy, I'd like to have Tony Gibson. I'd like to have Gibby back. I think he'd be a heck of a head coach. Romeo wants us also if WVU runs their 4 QB in an RPO, or runs their QB in an RPO offense, could be a good season. And I think they will. I really think they will. I think that's the direction he's going. Silas says, "Roll me one. I'm excited for some QB competition." Hall of Fame Media says, "I appreciate the kind words and was glad to have you on the show, Couz." Yeah, appreciate it, man. Romy wants us. He'd like to see Pat the Goat White as the next head coach. And Hall of Fame College Football says he would definitely have me on again. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's an honor, and maybe one of these days I can return the favor and have you on mine. We can talk some Oklahoma or whatever. Transfer portal is another thing Neal touched on today. He talked about the transfer portal and how the guys he got. He talked about Devin Carter first of all, the star receiver. Neal thinks he'll be a star receiver. Neal said he don't feel like Devin was used properly or wasn't given uh, really the best chance to put up big numbers at North Carolina State. He thinks he can do that at West Virginia. He says he thinks he has the potential to have a much better year at West Virginia than he's ever had at NC State. Thinks he can be a wide receiver one at West Virginia. So he's really excited about having him. And Bryce Ford Wheaton did play a role in getting him to West Virginia. Those two do have a relationship, and I think Bryce kind of really played a role. And believe it or not, this is something I find interesting, and I've got to do some research and find out who Devin Carter's mom is because his mom is actually from my hometown of Princeton, West Virginia. That also helped lead him to West Virginia, and I didn't know that. So I'm going to have to do some digging and see if I can some online trolling, as they say, see if I can find out who Devin Carter's mother is. Because heck, I might know her, or at least my wife or somebody in my family may know her, or somebody that I know may know her. Because this is a small town, and somebody will know her. Tyler Jenkins says, "I hope we don't lose C.J. Donaldson to the transfer portal. He's the one shining light on the offense right now. That and Garrett Green coming to light. Yeah, CJ made a post the other day. Tyler, I don't know if you saw it or not. He's now got a NIL deal with Toothman Ford, and they took a picture of him and announced that he will be coming back for the 2023 season. So he is planning to stay, as of now, anyway. He says, "Oh, that's cool. That's near me. I'm out of Fayette County. Cool, Tyler. I'm just a few miles south of you, man." Romeo One Kenobi says the LSU tight end that could be interesting. Yeah, he mentioned him too today. Cole Taylor, Coach Brown mentioned him today. They expect him to be really good. Uh, expect him to obviously come in and compete for the starting job right off the bat. They're really excited about him. They're also very excited about the return guy, Jay Polk. Says he's a great kick returner, and they need one of those out of the portal. Mentioned Montre Miller, the defensive back out of Kent State. A lot of fans were upset because he's a group of five player, but he was one of the one of the most highly regarded guys in the portal. He's a good player, and he's very, very fast. That's one of the things Neal Brown said that they really lacked last year was top end speed in the defensive secondary. And Montre Miller brings them that. So he felt like Montre was a good pickup, and I agree. I think Montre's a good pickup too. The first portal window is actually closed, Silas. Now players can still transfer. Players that are in the portal can still transfer. You just can't get in the portal uh, now. But there will be a second window after spring ball too, so they will have another chance to transfer if they haven't yet. Hall of Fame Media says, I am good with a more national conversation. My audience wants OU. I went to OU, so we're an OU channel, but I keep up with all of it. That's cool, man. I when I first started my channel, I tried to cover all of college football, but I'll be honest with you, man. I just didn't have the time. I don't have the time to watch enough games to do it justice. And I don't think it would be. I just wouldn't do a good job at it. So I thought I would be best to narrow my focus down to West Virginia. I do cover some Big 12 stuff. I've done a few videos on Oklahoma State, on TCU, obviously Big 12 realignment, expansion, all that stuff. I kind of try to cover all that. And, I'll throw in a national story here once in a while. I did something on Coach Prime not long ago, but yeah, for the most part, I try to stick to West Virginia and the Big 12 just because I feel like I'm more knowledgeable about it, and I can do a better job honing in on one thing. But one of these days, hopefully, if I get more time, because this obviously is not my full time job. If I get more time on my hands one of these days, I'll be able to spread my wings and start covering more national storylines. That's my goal anyway. At some point. Uh, yeah, yeah, Jason. I'm sorry, I've been calling you Hall of Fame college football. Yeah, Jason. His name's Jason. Thank you, man. Romeo Kenobi says we've got two corners now with elite speed, Spells and the transfer. Yeah, I'm really excited about Jacoby Spells too. I hated that we lost Mumu Ben Wahad to the portal. I felt like he could be a really good player, but I'm telling you, don't sleep on Christian Stokes. I think Christian Stokes also has the potential to be a very, very good football player. He was a freshman last year, didn't get to play a whole lot. And I'll tell you another young guy that I'm really high on is Riley Collins. Riley Collins got some playing time late last year. Uh, he had to stay under that 4 game window so that he could keep his red shirt. But the games he played in, he looked really good. I think their plan for him is to make him a middle linebacker, a Mike linebacker, but he just didn't have I'm sorry, a will linebacker, but he just doesn't have the size for that yet. So they ended up putting him at safety. But I think once they get some weight on him, he might be able to step in and play some snaps and contribute at that will linebacker spot. And heck, who knows? If he puts on enough weight, he might even be able to have an opportunity to start there this year because we did not get the production we needed out of that spot last year. Lance Dixon just has not, for some reason, been the player they thought he would be. I mean, heck, he was a 5-star recruit coming into Penn State, transferred from Penn State to West Virginia, and just has not translated for some reason into that 5-star talent. But who knows? Maybe he breaks out in 2023 and has a great year. We'll see. Romy One says Neal's been all over Central Kentucky recruiting lately. Dudes like whack a mole. He's aggressive on the trail, man. Got to give him that. He's definitely aggressive on the trail. Uh, Jason from Hall of Fame College Football says, yeah, it kind of evolved from college football to Big 12 to OU. You have to build an audience. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I mean, obviously, I'll never neglect my West Virginia fan base. Can't do that, but I do, gradually want to try to spread my wings. And I've also got a basketball channel too, Jason. I don't know if you know that or not, called Hoops from the Hills that I do with another guy named Mountaineer Paul. He and I have a basketball channel, so I used to do some basketball content here on this channel too, but I think it was kind of screwing up my algorithm, so I just decided to move it over to a whole separate channel. The thing is, it's just really hard to get enough content out, man. Uh, in basketball games, there's so many games, I just can't get enough content on the channel, man, for it to grow the way I want it to grow. But we're getting there. I'm up to 400 subs on that channel now too, or we are, I should say. Paul's been a big piece of that. Tyler says, last question so far. Who do you think is the best transfer W has scored? On paper, Tyler, I'm going to say it's a toss up between, and I hate to say toss up, but it's really hard to pick one because both are huge positions in need. But I'd say Montre Miller and Devin Carter right now. I'd still like to see him go out and get at least one, and I think he said he was going to get. He did say today he was going to get one more wideout at least. So they may do that in the spring when the other portal window opens. But they do want to get at least one more wideout, and they do have one defensive player that he wouldn't announce today that has committed. He just couldn't officially announce. I think it was Keyshawn Cobb, who we've all already seen in the media. But the school, if you notice, the school has not officially announced Keyshawn Cobb as part of the team yet. So it's my understanding that Keyshawn Cobb will probably be that last guy. For those of you who don't know, Keyshawn Cobb was a transfer safety out of Buffalo. He originally played at, I think it was East Mississippi Community College, maybe, somewhere like that, then Buffalo. Now he'll be coming over to West Virginia, but really good player. I think he'll be a huge piece at the safety spot for us. Another highly touted group of 5 player. Fans are getting aggravated because we're getting some of these group of 5 players, but man, some of these group of 5 players are good enough to play at the Power 5 level. And when these guys are being recruited by other big time Power 5 programs, you know they're good players. And both of these guys were. So I think that tells you a lot. But when you look at the other schools that are going after these guys, it tells you how good of a player they are, in my opinion, or at least how good they are on tape. Obviously, they have to translate, with that team as well. The fit is a big piece of it too. Romy wants his best transfer, the kick returner, wide receiver. He's damn Forrest Gump. Yeah, he is fast, man. He can roll. And we needed that, man. We need some speed at that return spot, and he'll be an inside receiver for us as well. Probably, at least may not start at inside receiver, but he'll at least be in the mix and give us some depth at that position as well. And he's really fast. Gamecock Chuck, why are you being so modest, Couz? You big time, man. The algorithm needs to recognize that. I wish it did. For some other, I don't know if it's because it's all season or what, and maybe Jason and Gamecock, maybe y'all can help me with this. Are you guys seeing your views go down? Because my views are going down lately. And I assume it's because of the off season. Maybe not as many people are just engaged in college football talk right now. But for whatever reason, my views seem to be going down on my sub count. Not my sub count's not dropping. I'm just not getting as many as I was. But that's part of it though. In YouTube, you have ups and downs. One month you just knock it out of the park, and next month you might come back down to reality. Jason says, "Yeah, I hear you. I will always come from an OU angle, but you kind of evolve, and as we grow, we'll see where it goes." Well done. I got to make a couple videos. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for hopping on and being a part of it. Yours are too. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know because sometimes you look at it, and you go, "Man, what am I doing wrong?" Sometimes I get into, I'm one of these guys that puts a lot of pressure on myself uh, to do more, to do better, and so it's good to hear that I'm not the only one seeing that. But not everyone's are. But I've only been on YouTube for 6 months. Oh, okay. Well, see, you just shot. Thanks, man. You just busted my bubble. Just kidding. No, I know other people's that are too. I guess it just depends. This time last year, my channel was actually doing really well. I actually hit a big surge about this time last year, and this year I'm seeing the opposite. Now, the thing is, though, I had a really big month a couple months ago, and now I'm just kind of coming back down to where I was before. So it really isn't doing all that bad. It just seems that way because I had such a big month in I don't remember what month it was. It was November. I think it was November or December. I had a really big month, one of my best months yet, and so because of that, it's making this month look worse. He says it's the Lincoln Riley effect. Yeah, that's who we'll blame it on. Linky boy, oh Linky boy. Silas says haven't been much breaking news that I've seen. Probably just slow. Yeah, it can be. I know Golden Blue Dude. I think his numbers are down a little bit too, from what I understand. So it happens. Part of the gig, man. Part of it. That's why you can't let it bother you too much. You can't get so focused on the numbers, and I do sometimes. If you get too focused on the numbers, it'll drive you nuts. You just kind of got to try to keep putting out quality content. If you put out quality content and give your audience something they want to hear, it'll all work out in the end. He says, I don't even know what works and what doesn't really. It's all trial and error. To be honest with you, Jason, man, just and look at your analytics as much as you can and try to make sure your thumbnail, your title are good. Make sure you're using keywords in your title as much as possible. All that stuff. And obviously the thumbnail is important because you want people to click it. So, but you're doing fine, man. I really like your content, and I heard at the last show you have a media background, and that's a huge plus for you, man. It's something you can use it really take advantage of. Because what I've noticed, guys who leave professional media and come to this, they usually do extremely well. And I mean, look at John Kurtz. I think he's already up to like 15,000 subscribers, and I think he started just a month or two before I did. So he's blown up. You got the guys at 365 Sports that are blowing up. Guy Mark Rogers came from ESPN. He's doing well. Of course, he's been at it for 7 years, but still, he's doing well. But see, 450 subs in December, but this month is like 40. Yeah, it happens, man. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. Uh, it's just it's hit or miss, feast or famine, whatever you want to call it, man. It's just you never know what you're going to get. Alan says it's hard to keep people excited when the team's losing more than they win, and that's another issue, Alan. When the team that I'm covering is so bad, is get is bad. It makes it tougher, because I'm not one of these people to get on. I don't want to get on here and be negative all the time. And I'll be honest with you, my negative videos usually do the best, but I'm not. I don't want to get on here and just be overly negative all the time just for clicks. I don't feel like that's the right. I wouldn't be true to myself if I did that, and I'm not going to do that. Gamecock Chuck says my football stuff hasn't done much. Where I've built my subs and views are from covering the Gamecocks women's basketball. I really want my football stuff to come along. That frustrates me the most, man. But Gamecock Chuck, what you're doing, man, where you're covering just South Carolina, and they've got that great women's program there, man. And I've actually seen some of your women's videos, and they do really well. I'm actually surprised at how I'm impressed at how well the South Carolina fan base does at supporting their women's basketball team, because West Virginia fans we don't do that like we should. We have a pretty good solid women's program, and we don't support it like we should. And I'll be first to admit that. Um, so it's cool. Number one, it's cool to see you do that, and two, it's really cool that your all's fans support it. So keep it up, man. But your football stuff will come along. Uh, you've got Shane Beamer over there who's picking up steam as a coach, doing really well. Obviously, you got the Spencer Rattler thing. Uh, so yeah, keep it up, man. It'll come along. Silas says, anyone planning on going to the Penn State game to start the season? I'm hoping to, Silas. It's on my bucket list, man. I'm waiting for the schedule to come out. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to start making plans to try to go. I've never been. State College is supposedly really, I think it's really close to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is also on my bucket list to visit. So my goal is to try to make that a trip where I go to visit Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, and also go to the game as well on the same weekend. That's what my hope is, if I can make it work. Alan says one great season, you have more viewers. Probably so. Probably so. Silas says it would be a blast, not a bad drive. No, I don't think it's too awful bad. It's definitely doable, and I'd make it work if, like I said, if I had all weekend to do it, I would definitely do it, man. Because like I said, the city of Philadelphia is one place I've not been yet, and I want to go. So I could do all that in one weekend. Guys, I'm trying to think of what else Neal Brown talked about today, but I guess to summarize this whole thing, I was real excited and happy that he was open, honest about the direction he's taking the program, about the moves he made in the off season, and it was refreshing to see that. It was refreshing to see him take the blame for what's happening, uh, and it's kind of refreshing to see him, even though it may not be what we want. If you look at it from, try to take a step back and look at it from his view, it's kind of refreshing to see him say, "Okay, if I'm going to go down, the ship's going to go down. I'm going to take it down my way, and you know, it's sink or swim." And he that shows you he believes in his philosophy, believes in what he's doing and how to build a program. And it's hard to not respect a guy for that. Doesn't mean I'm happy with the success he's had or lack of, but I do respect what he's doing. And I really, really hope it works. And the 2023 is the year that the thing gets flipped and they start winning some games. That's all we can hope for. Well, guys, that's about it for me. I think I've pretty much covered it all. If you have um, anything you want to add before I go here, throw it in the comment box real quick, and I'll try to address it. But other than that, guys, I really appreciate you hopping on here for this kind of last minute. I kind of threw this together last minute. Wasn't even sure if I was going to do it or not, but I hadn't done one for a while, and I thought, you know what, why not? Thank you, Silas. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Everybody, go check out Gamecock Chuck's channel. Go check out Jason over at Hall of Fame Media College Football. He says he don't like being negative all the time either. I say what's on my mind. I like to make fun of Texas and Okie Light, but I don't care much. I missed that comment about Lincoln, and I'm glad he's gone. Yeah, I totally get it. The way he left was just kind of shady, man. I didn't like it either. Nicholas says, yeah, Neal sounded like he was on defense the entire press conference. Romy wants his hopes better than dope. Let's go, Mountaineers. I know some ideas I'd like to talk to you about, though, when you have time. Absolutely, man. I'll hit you up on Twitter when I get off here. And then Carrie Stauffer, what's up, Carrie? Thanks, man. Thank you for the support. Great show. Thanks, man. And Gamecock Chuck says, great show. Thanks, buddy. Listen, guys, thanks again for hopping on. I'm going to jump off here. It's been close to an hour. That's enough of you seeing my bald headed mug here. So I'm going to jump off. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Q Country Roads.